So I made a video last week talking about how most people are making one gigantic mistake in crypto. And that's basically that they're putting all their eggs in this basket, hoping that crypto is going to help them achieve their financial goals, whether that's buying a home, paying off debts, retiring early, and that this is a mistake to rely on this as your only hope because you don't really have any control over these markets. But that a lot of people can actually increase their odds of hitting these same goals by just changing their career, changing their jobs to work in the blockchain industry. It's one of the highest paying jobs in tech. It's incredibly exciting. It's the future. And this is a great option for people, especially if you don't like the current job that you're in right now, because you can have great cash flow. There's less downside risk because don't forget, you can lose everything in crypto, and trading is like a full-time job, but it's a full-time job you can lose money at. And so in this video, I want to talk about some concrete steps on how you can actually do this. So before we get into that, if you're new around here, hey, I'm Gregory, and on this channel, I turn you into a blockchain master. So if that's something that you're interested in, then smash that like button down below for the YouTube algorithm and subscribe to this channel. And if you want to learn how to become a blockchain master step by step and start to finish, then head on over to dappuniversity.com/bootcamp to get started today. And last but not least, there's lots of scammers down in the comment section below. I'll never give you my phone number or ask you to invest with me. Just ignore them. All right, so let's get into this. So how can you actually change your career and, fix this cash flow problem that I was talking about? I think it's a lot better strategy for people than just banking on crypto being their only hope. So, first of all, you have to clarify the opportunity because the national average salary, at least posted on here for ZipRecruiter for blockchain developer, is $154,000 per year. Now, of course, that's the United States. That's for somebody with some experience. And you can see that there's a lot of highly paid people that kind of skew this average somewhat. But that's the upside potential here. Okay, so you have to think about, what if you made half that amount? Is that better than what you do now? What if you made 80%, et cetera, et cetera? What would that put you in a position where that really increases the cash flow and helps you out very tangibly in your life compared to just trying to bank on cryptocurrency to solve all your problems? So we can also see that compared to something like a web developer on their platform, which only makes an average of $75,000 per year. So basically, blockchain's twice as lucrative as web developer. So if you want to get even close to making that kind of money, let's kind of reverse engineer the problem. So what do you need if that's where you want to head? Well, first of all, you have to be able to provide value because that's the only reason that anybody pays somebody for anything is the value that they get. And when a business wants to hire you as a developer, they're saying this person's going to provide me way more value than the salary that I'm paying them. So how do you provide that value? Well, it's through skill. You have to have the skills to pay the bills in order to become highly paid. Now, this is true for any type of job that you want to get in blockchain. I talked about in that last video how you don't have to just become a developer, but knowing the technical fundamentals of blockchain will greatly enhance your value in the workplace, whether you want to be a designer, a marketer, and any other job you can think of in a startup. Those jobs exist in blockchain too. But I'm going to focus mostly on developer for this video because it's primarily what I teach on this channel. I'm a developer myself. So I'm talking about how do you actually start from square one and take concrete steps towards this goal. And this will apply to other, skills as well, but I'm going to focus on exactly how you do as a developer right now. So step one really is to just start with the basics, just learning the actual skills themselves before you start trying to think about how you're going to land a job or become a freelancer or whatever your goal is. Okay. And people are really starting from two different places here. They're either starting from, I'm not much of a coder at all, or maybe have zero coding experience and I'm trying to, get to this destination, become a blockchain developer, or they're a developer already and they want to reskill into blockchain. So the step that I'm talking about right now is basically going to be the same for both people. It's just that brand new coders are going to take longer at this particular step than people who already are developers. So really that's just to learn these skills. So how do you do that? Well, I highly recommend that people learn by just building projects. I'm really a big believer on project-based learning, where you learn the programming languages as you go by building something for real for lots of reasons. Number one, it gets you excited about what you're learning. You see exactly what you're doing. You're seeing the tangible benefit and payoff as you go along, and it's much more efficient. It's faster than trying to say, oh, I'm going to go learn a bunch of programming languages first, and then I'm going to go try to build a project. So I think there's definitely room to go tighten up the fundamentals of your programming languages after you try to go build a project. But just start by building something, but do it with a tutorial. And so that's exactly what I show you on my YouTube homepage. You can go there, you can find any of my free courses there. They're Udemy courses, but they're totally free. So that would be a great step one is just go try to build one of those projects. You're going to bump into walls if you're brand new. You're going to hit blockers that kind of, make your head hurt. But that's how you learn. You learn by experiencing that pain and then kind of breaking through. And that's how your skills really advance. Any experienced developer will tell you this. I don't have to tell you that if you're an experienced developer already, of course, you know this. But you're going to learn a lot faster by just going and trying these projects and picking up the programming languages as you go. Okay, so that's basically how you do it for project-based tutorials. So step number two, once you've done that, is to build a real world app. So what do I mean by that? Well, basically the tutorials that I'm talking about in step 1, like I have on my YouTube channel, those are what I would call more like tutorial level apps. Basically, they're not really meant to push that out in production for end users to start putting like lots of money in cryptocurrency and use them in production. They're really designed just to teach you the basics. Like, we actually had to build a to-do list in one of those. Like, people aren't really going to use a to-do list in the blockchain. That's not the point of the tutorial. The point is to show you something you're familiar with and get the programming languages. So the next one is to try to build something for real. So maybe you want to try to build a decentralized cryptocurrency exchange, for example. Well, that's a project that people will actually use in the real world. It's much more complex than a simple tutorial. But I would try to do some sort of more like advanced guided development of this. Okay, so basically like build a real world, advanced tutorial. All right, and if you're an experienced developer already, maybe you have the confidence in your skills to like skip past the tutorial phase of this and just try to go build one yourself without being guided, and that's great. But if you're still in this phase, then I would highly recommend this step right here being a guided, somewhat handheld process, because you want to go through the process of building an advanced front end that works like a real front end application, building industrial strength smart contracts and things like that would actually power real application, because this is going to get your skills up to the job ready level. Like build a real app like an employer would ask you to build or be a part of. Okay. That takes your skills from sort of that beginner level where you're just understanding how things work in a tutorial to more of a professional level. That's the whole point of this step. But you still probably want your hand held through this process if you're in that sort of beginner phase. But once you've finished that, number 3 is to build an unguided project. Okay, so this is where you're actually thinking of the end result that you want to create, and you're writing the code to do it. Where you say, I come up with a project that I don't have a tutorial for, and I'm trying to say like, hey, how do I solve this problem with code? Because that's basically what you want to, that's the skill you want to develop when you become a real world developer. That's one of the primary skills you're paid for, is to solve problems with code. Okay. So you'll do that by either building a project from scratch that you're just envisioning, hey, I want to do this, I write the code to do it. Or you can take like this project, this advanced tutorial that I talked about here in step number 2, and you can just build on top of it. Let's say it's got features that you don't have. You could envision new features to add to that application. Just build off something that's already familiar to you. If, building an unguided project totally from scratch is just too much, maybe. You could just take something you've already built and then just extend it, right? Or you could build it from scratch, whatever is, challenging, but not too hard. You don't want it to be too hard. Okay. We talk about the zone of like proximal development. I think that's what it's called, where basically you want a challenge to be just enough, not too overwhelming. Sometimes that's hard in software development because when you're brand new, everything's overwhelming. All right. That's kind of the case for a lot of people. What you have to do is kind of just jump in. What's the fastest way to learn? Immersion, right? You see that all the time with language acquisition. If you want to go learn a foreign language, what's the fastest way to do it? Just jump into that culture and start speaking it all the time. You'll pick it up really fast. The same is true for software development. So after you've built an unguided project, the next thing you really want to do is show it off. So put it out there in the wild and add to your portfolio. So basically, you want to create some sort of online presence that shows people what you can actually do. All right. So you want to create a portfolio website that tells people who you are and what you're about, what you can do. And the proof is really in what you can do. And so that's what your portfolio will do. So you show them your application deployed online. You can open source the code, put it on GitHub. And, that's going to be really impressive to employers that you can do that. And that's going to show them, it's going to pre-qualify you whenever you go into an interviews. Because, of course, somebody could have written the code for you. Maybe you stole somebody else's code, put it online. I mean, they will screen you further in an interview, but that's going to go a long way. And honestly, at this point, you're ready to start applying for jobs. Now, I'll say this. There's a fork in the road for people here. Some people really just want to get their foot in the door as fast as possible and start making money and changing their career. And some people are really trying to maximize their career opportunity and make the most money possible. Okay. So if that's you, if you want to make the most money possible, I'm going to talk about how you do that in a second. But if you're just new and you just want to get your foot in the door and be a developer as fast as you can, then this is what I would say. for a lot of people, some people question like, hey, are people even hiring beginning blockchain developers? Sometimes people get like, kind of cynical. They look at, the high salaries and say, oh yeah, it's for experienced people, or maybe they got rejected from an interview and say, nobody wants to hire beginners. It's not true. I mean, I've helped lots of people get blockchain developer jobs who are beginners. I've hired people who are relatively new developers for projects. There's lots of reasons why people want to hire beginners. So if you want to do that, then, once you've completed these steps, honestly, I would just start applying for jobs as fast as possible. So you may not get hired initially, but why is it important to start applying as fast as possible? Well, you're going to get feedback on what you don't know, or what, you're going to get feedback on what the market's looking for that you don't have yet. And then you can go back and work on that. So it sucks to get rejected, right? But that rejection will help you get started faster because it shows you what you lack and what you're going to, what you can learn. And so that's what I would say if you're just trying to get started as fast as possible. And once you've completed that, you might get lucky and land a job really fast. But if not, you just sort of repeat these steps and go back and try to enhance these skills. And maybe you ask the employer that you didn't get hired from, what you need to work on. Sometimes they won't tell you, right? Sometimes they just won't even spend the time to tell you what you need to work on. But sometimes hiring managers will be nice and you can get that information. If you're trying to maximize your income, not just get hired as fast as possible, because if the trade-off is if you're just trying to get your foot in the door, you're probably going to get paid less, but you're getting paid to learn. That's awesome. Who doesn't want to get paid to learn, right? Like, you can get a job where people know your skill level. They're honest with where you are. You're still providing them value, but you're getting paid to get better. Trade-off with that is it's probably going to take you longer to rise in the salary ranks. Some people don't care. They just want to get more money now. That's okay. So if you are trying to rise in the salary ranks as fast as possible, then what do? Well, you do this that I'm talking about here, but you take this to the next level. Okay. So instead of just building an advanced tutorial, building your own project, you actually want to build a real app and, get it out there and get users on it and see how it interacts in the real world, and try to build an app that actually meets user demand. It doesn't have to be the most successful app on the face of the planet. And if it does, well, then, hey, you've got a successful business on your hands and you may not need to get a job. But if you're not so concerned about, scaling it as a business, you want to get that experience, because essentially what you're trying to do is get your developer skills up to the senior level, where you've got real world battle experience, and you can prove that to an employer and they'll pay you for the amount of value that you provide, which is essentially the senior level at that point. Now, that's harder to do, and you essentially have to wait to get paid a lot longer. And most people aren't going to forgo that money, leave it on the table. But here's the thing. What if you could start in the blockchain industry, at that $150,000 plus level that I showed you here a minute ago, and you just had to wait like a year to do it? Well, if you start, at half that level as a ranked beginner, let's say you started, like $75,000 per year, it might take you a lot longer to, work your way up to $150,000 a year. Whereas if you were, just really advanced and wanted to go for the moon, you could just wait, build something for real, and then start at a much higher level later. And you pretty quickly pay yourself back for all the time that you lost there. And so if you want to get started on this today, then how can you do it? Well, you want to start here on square one, whether you're a beginner or not. You want to learn the skills. So you can go to my YouTube homepage. You can find those free courses that I talked about, like Udemy courses, but they're totally free. Some of them, they're like multiple hours long. Okay. But if you want to jump to this step, go to number 2 and build like a real world advanced tutorial. That's exactly what I show you to do inside the blockchain bootcamp. And you don't have to watch the other videos on YouTube in order to do that. You can just skip straight ahead. I actually show you to build a real world project, a cryptocurrency exchange, decentralized cryptocurrency exchange. That's more at the skill level of what you would want to achieve if you were trying to get hired to actually become a blockchain developer in the real world. You can check that out over at dappuniversity.com/bootcamp. So that's all I've got for today. As always, smash that like button down below for the YouTube algorithm. Subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. That really helps these videos out so more people can learn about blockchain. So that's all I've got. And until next time, thanks for watching Dapp University.